Atheist Nomads, episode 260, Trump's Treason and Other Conspiracies.
The podcast you're about to listen to includes cursing and talking about hoo-haws. Please be advised.
Welcome to the episode of Atheist Nomads. I am Dustin. Joining me is Lauren.
Hello.
And we have Justin with us.
Hello.
And Rocco. And Kylie. And Bucky. Of course.
Every time Kylie does like a little, I'm just like, oh my god, baby talk.
It's pretty adorable. She's got the D sound really well. She's doing lots of da da da.
She's
Dustin is like, yeah, I'm kind of a big deal.
Kind of a big deal around here.
She's accidentally gotten the right phonemes together to say daddy.
Nice.
There's been a definite no.
And you certainly haven't been going and waking her up in the middle of the night and coaching her, right? None of that going on.
Lauren does that for me.
Yeah, no, there's no waking him up in the middle of the night. He's very good at ignoring anything else that's going on in the middle of the night.
Perfect.
Well, the 5 months of restless leg during the pregnancy helped train me for that.
Yeah. Too bad I can't say that it trained me to survive on 3 hours of sleep, but that's good.
Only methamphetamine can do that, and that's a bad.
Oh my god, I missed my Ritalin as I'm watching this hummingbird, totally distracted. What? Sorry. Okay, I'm back.
All right. So yeah, we just got back from our vacation.
Kind of vacation. Yeah,
it was a lot of work.
It's a lot of. It was, it's a first big drive as a young family. Things are going to crop up.
What's Highland Park like? 3.5, almost 4 hours out there? Or no, it's further, right? Yeah, because it's past Pocatello. It's about almost to the state line.
It's about 5 hours normally. We found with a baby, it's about 7.5.
Oh,
yep. But we picked something up on the way. Kylie threw up, and then Dustin and I simultaneously. That was impressive, actually. Dustin ran one way, and I just kind of ran the other, and we just. It was great.
Oh, man.
Good times. Spread that around to the whole family.
Hey.
So that's great. So, yeah, I kind of felt like I got cheated out of my vacation because I wasn't able to enjoy half of it. But we got a lot done up there. The cabin is kind of forlorn and needs loving. So.
And I was either working on building a bridge or sick.
Great vacation.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's pretty typical, I think, of family vacations. But Kylie got lots of cousin time, so that... play in the creek.
Well, and being in Island Park's never a bad thing either.
Nope,
so
not really.
It's really never bad. And you've been good, Justin?
I have, thank you. Just, same old. Being a dude that does stuff.
All right, well.
Working that wood.
Oh, and I go out in my shop sometimes, too.
But. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go ahead and move on to Dustin off the degree. We're going to talk about fasting.
Okay.
It is one of the most root and base religious observances because it is the lowest level ascetic practice. And asceticism is punishing yourself because you're sinful.
Mm-hmm.
At its more extreme, you get self-flagellation where you're literally whipping yourself, in some cases, embedding the whip with sharp objects to literally tear the flesh from your own back. That's at the one of the extremes. Ultimate extremes on asceticism includes castrating yourself, but much more common is the less extreme fast. You'll see it almost comically done with the way Catholics fast sometimes on Fridays or at Lent.
Or at Lent, yeah.
Where fasting is just giving up something.
Mm-hmm.
Usually it's red meat. They say they're giving up meat. No, they're only giving up red meat.
There is a specific prescription for fasting, right? In the Old Testament.
Nothing but water.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
A proper fast is nothing but water. So you get it that way with Catholics. Muslims during the holy month of Ramadan will fast from sun up to sundown. If you are in a northern latitude and Ramadan is in the summer, because it shifts around, that really sucks because the sun goes up at, if you're in a reasonable time zone, unlike ours, the sun goes up at around 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and it's not down until 8 or 9 at night. But if you're in a more equatorial region, you can get up early and eat breakfast, and you can have, you have a feast meal at the end of the day. You just don't eat anything during the daylight hours. When it's pushing into the winter, then it's much easier because, eating dinner at 4:30 is not a big deal.
Right. Well, that sucks for the refugees who live here.
Yes.
That was just one more, culture shock thing to have to deal with.
And last year, Ramadan was in July, so they had to wait until 10 o'clock at night to eat.
Oh, man.
That's one way to prove your faith, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Lose some weight.
There are days where I fast to my religion of money just because I'm so, busy that I don't even stop and think about it or whatever. But man, that sounds like torture.
See, I like to go from stress eating to stress starving. So, sometimes that's what I do.
Now, the more common kind of fast
like that plan.
Is water only, and you have the 24 or 36 hour fast, the 3-day fast, and the 7-day fast. Those are the most common you'll find. 24 and 36 hour are by far the most common because those are plausible. I've done both. In college, I did a 24-hour fast. That is sundown to sundown. So eat an early supper before you start the fast, and then if you aren't doing it in the summer, which if you're smart, you're not doing it in the summer, eat a normal, dinner at normal time, or eat dinner at normal time and eat the next day a bit late. It was not terrible.
I've done several times where I've gone 24 to 36 hours without eating just due to whatever circumstances or
just on accident.
Well, and it was in college and we were doing tons of backpacking and stuff. So we were challenging ourselves to see what level of physical activity we could maintain without eating for a while, just to know our stressors. Right. So I've done a couple things like that, but getting to the 48-hour point is where it gets scary for me. That's.
Yeah, and the 36-hour fast is sundown of day 1 till sunrise of what would be day 3. So if you're doing it, say, starting
sleep through part of it. That's smart.
Yeah, you're sleeping through a lot of it.
You get 2.
But you effectively get 2 meals one day, no meals the next day, and then a late, probably a brunch and a supper the next day. The 36-hour fast I did was on a school day. It was brutal. It was
trying to concentrate without a maintained glucose level.
It was in the fall, and so I had a snack at about 4 in the afternoon, and then the sun went down, and then I had to wait by the next morning when classes started. I was still doing generally okay. By the afternoon, I was not. And when you fast, what you are supposed to be doing with the time you aren't spending eating is pray. And with that fast, I did that. I spent my meal times in the chapel there at the seminary, and I prayed and was very angry at God for having abandoned me. It was not fun. And I was kind of hoping that you
were angry at God.
Yes, I was.
Nice.
And I was really hoping that by doing that fast that it would restore my faith, that it would break down that barrier that was
all the promises
me from God.
that people make with fasting and prayer and that kind of thing. It's supposed to renew your spirit and all sorts of stuff.
All it did was weaken me and make me angry. Not angry, cranky.
Hangry.
Yes, and maybe quite hangry.
Using modern terminology.
So, but a 36-hour fast, it's relatively common. It's pretty functional. One of the reasons why Christians switched from Saturday observance to Sunday observance is because of fasting. There was by mid-first century or second century, the early Christians they would fast on Saturday and then have a big feast on Sunday. And they'd be doing about a 36-hour fast. So what they were doing was commemorating every week Jesus dies, and while he's in the tomb, you don't eat. And then after he's resurrected, you have a giant feast. And so the feast at the end became the celebrated part, and the not eating on the day of rest was not fun.
Yeah.
And so
that went by the side.
So eventually they dropped the fast day, and yeah, everybody was happier.
People stopped killing each other quite as much.
They dropped the fast day, and they kept the feast day, and that became the new day of worship.
Interesting.
And that's how all holidays should be.
And then you have the longer
based
fast.
around food. Absolutely.
That is, yeah.
Then you get the longer fast, the 3 days, the 7 days. A 3-day fast is if you are in good health and if you are an adult. So teenagers doing that is very dangerous. Elderly people doing that is also dangerous. So young to middle-aged adult should be the only people ever doing that for safety reasons. But generally people end up being okay with it.
It's not really proving your faith if you don't do it with a little hint of danger.
Yeah. A 7-day fast is where your internal organs start shutting down.
7 days? It takes that long?
Yeah.
That's a believer.
By about day 3, you stop pooping because there's nothing left to poop.
That sounds pretty good.
Except you still have...
You just had a flash in your mind of, oh man, if I didn't have to poop.
I never had to poop again. You know how much time I'd save every day?
Except that also means that the bilirubin that is getting removed from your blood
is no longer...
has nowhere to go. Yeah. It gets dumped into the intestine and nothing's flushing it out. Well, eventually it does make its way out and is incredibly gross when you just get this black slime coming out of your butt.
Gross.
Urine will change as you start running out of electrolytes and your body's having a harder time keeping up with everything. Brain function really starts to go down by day 3.
Oh, yeah.
Day 4 and 5, it really, really goes down. And by day 7, that's where you're reaching the point where you're starting to have serious effects on the functioning of your organs.
Yeah. And long-term effects, too, even after your recovery. Yeah, I just don't... I mean, me personally at this point, like, I'm not fasting unless it's just a coincidental thing, you know? But I can't understand somebody going past 36 hours with that, 48.
It's not fasting, it's forgetting to eat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or not having the opportunity to eat. But, no, yeah, going out of your way... To the point where you would harm
your body, you know, or get in that state of mind, you know, because... 24 hours into not eating, you're starting to become a little delusional on some level.
I think people get kind of hooked on
3 days
that,
into that.
I think that's why these cleanses are so popular.
A little bit of a high from that.
Like, yeah, I think there's something about...
Because people have the out-of-body experience while they're fasting and all that.
Yeah, hallucinations, basically. Dehydration and food starve.
You drink a shit ton of water when you're fasting.
That's true.
Because it's the only thing you're getting in. There are people who will try 2-week, 3-week, or even 40-day fasts. I can tell you with absolute certainty that anybody who claims to have done a 40-day fast
is a liar.
Is lying.
Absolutely. There's no... Unless you live in a place where the water just happens to have a well-balanced mix of all your daily...
Protein shakes.
Yeah, nutrients and vitamins and protein and fat. And
it is definitely dangerous to ever go beyond... a week at the absolute most. And that is all before we learned about the intestinal microbiome. When you fast, you are fucking up your gut because you are starving the bacteria that live there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So the delusions and the changes to your brain, you might literally drive yourself insane by fucking with your microbiome.
Well, and... Yeah, and, you know, if you're killing that healthy bacteria culture in your intestines and your colon, then it's going to be so much easier for an unhealthy bacteria culture to take over in there, too, you know, from something you've eaten. So.
And we're also seeing it now with the kind of hippie-adjacent left, with people doing...
the cleanse it, the
juice diets, the cleanses, the
like
elimination
where they just
diets.
Flush themselves constantly and basically, the
detoxes.
Ruin their gut environment.
I have a hypothesis. I would love to see research actually done into this about what happens to a person's sanity after doing that. Because I have seen examples where, and it's hard to prove causation versus correlation. But there definitely seems to be at least a strong correlation between people who are kind of unhinged a bit or a little bit loose on their hinges going into fast, whether it's religious or out of a misguided health idea, and coming out the other end batshit insane. You look at the craziest Christians, and they're the ones who've done the 7-day fast.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the craziest crunchy granola, gluten-free, vegan, philosophically vegan, pseudo-hippie bullshit, and the people the furthest on that point have done a whole bunch of, constant elimination diets and long cleansing fasts. And is it that the people that are doing that are already crazy, or is it making them crazier by fucking up their gut?
It would definitely be an interesting thing to find out.
And from my observation is every time you do it, you're a little bit crazier. And I think it's because you're fucking up your gut every time.
Well, yeah. And I mean, if anything, modern neuroscience is showing that your overall physiognomy or physiological well-being, every little part of it plays a difference with your mindset, and your attitude and your brain synapses, and little tiny things can make over years big behavioral changes.
And also even just putting yourself into a delusional state. I know from personal experience the delusional state I was in while suffering from pneumonia and an infected poisonous spider bite and on 2.7 grams of antibiotics a day. I know those delusions stick with you for years and are hard to shake. It took me 5 years to shake that. And you can put yourself into a similar delusional state by not eating for 3 days. Those delusions stick around.
Yeah.
And as your brain isn't working as well, you're a lot more susceptible to ideas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so easy to convince somebody who hasn't had sleep for a day, or and I would because I have chronic non-diabetic hypoglycemia, and so if I don't have either a very consistent intake of carbohydrates or a really heavy protein-based meal on a regular basis, then I start to my glucose levels drop and my brain just I start to think crazy things. I start to feel like my friends are attacking me when they're not. The slightest little thing I misinterpret as it is hallucinating. And so I can only imagine after 3 days of having low glucose levels in your brain, what you might start going through, because it's as soon as I have if I get some sugar in me real quick and then that goes away, it's like this veil is lifted. I'm like, oh my God, I was being so irrational a moment ago,
And if you ask any doctor, any good doctor, they're going to be unanimous that fasting is not good for you, that eating a balanced, nutritious diet consistently is the best thing for your overall health.
Yeah, I think that's pretty solid science right there.
So, yeah, missing a meal or two, no big deal. Not eating for a day, not a good idea. But eat your goddamn food.
Yep.
And on that note, we're going to take a break. Atheist Nomads is proudly brought to you by listeners just like you. You can find out how you can become a patron at patreon.com/atheistnomads. That's patreon.com/atheistnomads. Authorities in India are cracking down on baby trafficking that the missionaries of charity have been doing for decades. And at least one nun and at least one other person working with the charity are known to be, and probably by now arrested for, selling babies to childless couples for $550 to $1,450. As a result of this, some leaders of the ruling Hindu Nationalist Party are calling to remove the Jewel of India, the highest civilian honor in the country, that was conferred on Mother Teresa nearly 40 years ago.
I would say, from what I understand of Mother Teresa, this is the least of the offenses by her and her organization. So, okay. So they were helping orphans make it to homes for a profit. I can live with that. The starvation and like medical care deprivation and things like that that Mother Teresa did while she was alive, those are the things that I have an issue with, personally.
Now, I'm going to say both are bad.
Mm-hmm. One actually ends with because I don't know who they're adopting these children out to and stuff like that, but I'm assuming that they are adopting orphans to people who want children for reasons other than sex trafficking or slavery or something like that. So there's this altruistic thing of a child being adopted in that situation versus...
Except they're calling it baby trafficking, not adoption.
Well, yeah.
They were doing proper adoption.
I mean, I guess it really is baby trafficking if they're doing it under the table illegally.
So this is under the table illegal adoption, circumventing their normal adoption process they were doing for orphans. So these are people who were not fit parents or who...
want to bypass that system for some reason.
Wanted to bypass the system, possibly for slavery or grooming a baby for sex work or
selling them. Whatever. Okay. So pretty damn bad,
but also fits with the general trend of what the Missionaries of Charity have done, which is being an organization that exists to maximize suffering.
Yes, that once I actually, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Christopher Hitchens. The first time I found out that what Mother Teresa really was, and started looking into it, and it's just disgusting. And so many people hold her up in deference, and it's disgusting.
She had a chance to provide aid and relief and care, and instead, what she did was try to maximize how long people would suffer without providing any relief.
And in her own words, I mean, this was not something that she was doing and trying to cover up. This was her mission statement, was that this suffering brought them that much closer to God.
Yeah.
It's
so, okay. I want to address the different points here. The people involved in the baby trafficking need to be arrested. Missionaries of Charity should be abolished.
Yeah.
And at the very least, any handling of orphans they are doing needs to be removed for the foreseeable future. The Hindu Nationalist Party is obviously using this as an excuse to try to malign a Christian organization for being a Christian organization.
Well, because you look at the abuses that are just overlooked every day in India, and it's kind of hard to say, well, so why are you singling this person out? You've got, you've got a huge problem in your country with rape culture and all levels of debauchery, I suppose. And this is the thing you're choosing to focus on.
I think their motives in wanting to remove the Jewel of India is probably misguided and coming from the wrong place. However, Mother Teresa should not have the Jewel of India. That should be removed.
Yeah.
Period.
Yep. Absolutely.
Every honor that she has should be stripped away because she is not a friend of India. She took advantage of the suffering that was happening in India to maximize suffering, and that is despicable.
Yep. It doesn't matter what your warped belief system has you believing. If it has you thinking that you're a hero helping these children out, you're still they're suffering, and objective, reasonable, compassionate human beings are going to be able to look at that and flush that out. And it is horrific.
Yeah.
I had a discussion with Mother Teresa about my dad once, and he was not very happy with where it went because he just insisted that she was this amazing person. And I started pointing out some facts, and it quickly became, that's some liberal, that's not true. And it's like, oh, man.
Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte. Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte got a lot of attention recently for calling God stupid and calling out Catholic dogma such as original sin for tainting even innocent infants. Many in his heavily Catholic country quite angry.
I was going to say, isn't the Philippines is very Catholic? Yeah.
Yes. And he has responded by saying that he will resign if anyone can prove that God exists.
Love it. Love it.
Oh, man.
The ball's on that guy.
I actually hate it.
Really?
This is...
because
he is a fascist.
See, and I don't know anything about his politics, so...
He's last been in the news, and I think covered on this show for death squads allowing anybody, if you suspect that your neighbor or anybody else you know or don't like is a drug dealer, enabling you to kill them vigilante style without any prosecution.
So this just makes this guy one more Pol Pot or in air quotes Hitler or Stalin or whatever.
Stalin or Pol Pot are better examples.
Yeah.
It is if he is an atheist.
Well, but that's the way Christians lump them all together.
Right,
they have these guys. Oh, these are socialist atheists. Yeah.
And in this case, he's probably an atheist. He's not a humanist by any means. No. We do not want to align ourselves with him.
No, absolutely not. Because it's just, and of course, there's this logical aspect to it where where the right kind of has to lump atheists with all the bad examples of atheists. They can't look at the average atheist. They have to look at the bad atheist and say this is what atheists are. And you completely miss the point that there's no form cut atheist that's the
example we would want the world to look at for what a atheist leader of a country looks like probably will end up being the current prime minister of Spain.
Is Justin Trudeau an atheist?
I don't know.
But
if so, then him.
Are you
going to look it up?
I'm going to look it up. Yeah. I don't know why I have that in my head. It's probably not even remotely accurate.
Reverend Fauscher, or however his name is pronounced, here in Boise, the pedophile, or not necessarily pedophile, the priest currently in the Ada County Jail pending trial for drug possession and, more importantly, the trafficking of child pornography, has a new update. The Boise DOC of the Roman Catholic Church is preparing his residence for sale, and as part of that, sent a priest who is an exorcist to drive out all the demons and cleanse and bless the place.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I guess I'm confused about what this is going to accomplish. Running this through my personal filters, I just can't imagine what the good of that is.
Driving out the demons of child pornography out?
Well, the demons, the keyword being demon, so you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
Like, how about we drive the producers of child pornography into the penitentiary? That's a good place to start. Or drive the pedophiles out of the Catholic Church. That would also be good. Oh, good luck. You wouldn't have any. You lose 50% of your church leadership, sir.
Or in the example of Chile, all of their bishops.
Oh, is that where there's no extradition in Chile? Is that
no? All of their bishops offered their resignations for the way they've handled pedophile priests.
Oh,
I haven't seen the update on that, but yeah.
So some conscience in Chile.
Yeah.
That's good, because then that'll free up the Catholic Church to put people who are more receptive to having pedophiles be protected in those positions.
Or when you have a mass resignation like that, it makes it so that they can't be accepted, because then there'd be no leadership.
Oh, yeah. So they'll get a stay, and they'll have to start addressing this in Chile at least.
Yeah. All right, so what did you find on Trudeau?
He is what he calls a lapsed Roman Catholic.
Okay.
But I've seen a lot of things where he kind of not outright disparaging of religion and theism, but very critical of it. So I just kind of assumed he might be an atheist. Maybe he's a closet atheist, but he's still a politician. So
heck, Dan Savage, depending on how you catch him, either identifies as an atheist or a lapsed Catholic. He's an atheist, but he's also a former Irish Catholic.
Okay.
So, yeah. That identification does have merit.
I think it says, I'm not a believer in this, at least, So,
you get a lot of...
He practices some form of spirituality, but it seems to me like once once somebody that has been raised in any specific religion is able to see through that, then they go to that spiritual thing, energies and stuff like that, and then they're like, okay, apply the same logic, and you're generally able to work your way to the point of, okay, none of this.
Now, odds are he's using that label because it's less politically.
Yeah, I'm not even sure. Can you even get elected in Canada yet as an atheist? I don't know how their political environment is.
Yeah, I don't either. Well, we're going to move to a different Commonwealth country than that one. Australia has their no jab, no pay policy that withholds financial benefits from parents who refuse to vaccinate their children, and it just got stronger. So in addition to the already existing $737 per year family tax benefit that they've already lost, they will now be losing an additional $28 in tax benefits every other week.
I like the fact that they're trying to do something about the vaccination. I don't like that they're making it monetary, though, because like poor families, that could hit them really hard.
Vaccines in Australia, like all healthcare, are free.
Oh, okay. Well, because to a degree, there's these people have this personal belief, right? And I can see, because my belief is you get your kids vaccinated because that is what is best for everybody. But I can see somebody being really staunch on that, having that belief, truly believing that, being in a bad economic situation, and feeling like they're really doing the right thing, and then having their family, their children, who were supposed to be helping protect their children, our children, and that whole thing, now have less opportunity, less money, stuff like that. That's what I don't like. You need to find a way to do something
that is super rare.
Yeah,
it's usually mid-income, educated,
like more left, like those
are the people that they're targeting,
or the diehard rights, like Jehovah's Witnesses and some of those where
I don't know if this is affecting. Jehovah's Witnesses are not anti-vax.
I thought
they're anti-blood transfusion.
I thought it was okay.
That's Christian Science that it tends to be more anti-vax, but unless the law requires it, in which case they'll go ahead and do vaccinations. There are very few religious groups that are seriously anti-vaccination.
Okay.
And there are only so many ways to do it, and it is for the goal that they have to actually accomplish it. The removing financial benefits, they're not fining people for not vaccinating their children. They're just removing tax benefits. So basically, it's an automatic welfare system that you have for having children in Australia.
Okay.
They're cutting down on how much of that you get.
Okay.
There's, in the US, where you'll end up seeing it enforced, it's you can't send your kids to public school, or in some cases, any school, if they aren't vaccinated. California has recently joined that group.
That to me is a more logical approach, because you're addressing the real concern with not having vaccinations. Whereas when you make it a monetary thing, it's not a money. I mean, it is a money issue when it gets to, say an epidemic or pandemic level or something like that, or even people on Medicare and Medicaid and stuff like that. But with the not being able to go to school, that's where it poses a direct threat. That's
also a financial threat.
Because you lose funding.
You're removing access to the free option
of education. Yeah.
Of a public education.
Yep. Damn. Yeah, see, I didn't think about that.
Or if you are including private schools with that, then you are removing
access to education unless you homeschool.
Which means you're losing access to a second income.
Yeah, exactly. So, man. Well, I mean, so what's the
other alternative would be if you don't vaccinate your children, they get seized by the state and vaccinated by the government.
Oh, and then taken back home.
Maybe.
Which is horrific as well. I mean, none of these options have a good implementation.
No.
like
what Australia...
There is no good implementation.
No, there really is.
What Australia is doing is the least bad option to get people to do what they should be doing anyway.
Yeah, because definitely restricting access to education is, I think, a little more of a long-term detriment to a child than possibly them not, being able to eat as much, if that's what the tax breaks ended up being, was food, if that
$28 every other week. The annual part is about
almost
equivalent.
$800.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it works out to about the same. So if you make more than $80 a day, it's going to be a higher penalty. And this, of course, is all Australian money, so a little bit less than American dollar.
Okay.
You're cutting out the parents' beer money.
Yeah. Or, going to the movies or something.
That's what this is hitting. It's beer money. Do you want to be able to buy your beer or vaccinate your children, or not be able to buy beer and not vaccinate your children?
Mm-hmm.
And because it scales with income, they are trying to not punish poor people for being poor.
Yeah.
Because any kind of a financial penalty is always going to be harder on the poor.
Always, yeah.
Because if you make $500,000 a year,
this is
$1,500. What's $1,500 a year?
Yeah,
that's nothing.
Nothing.
And also, if you make that much, you're probably not getting those tax benefits anyway.
Right.
If you make $500,000 a year and you don't have access to public education, public school isn't that, or private schools aren't that expensive.
Yep.
And if you make that much, you're probably sending your kids to private schools anyway.
Yeah. And say you couldn't go to a public or a private school, you can hire someone to come into your home that is more than qualified and teach them.
And the U.S. House Appropriations Committee has passed an amendment to a bill funding the Departments of Labor, Health and Human Services and Education that would penalize states that don't allow adoption agencies to discriminate on the basis of their religious belief by cutting their federal adoption funding by 15%. With the exception of Scott Taylor, Republican from Virginia, the amendment passed the committee along party lines.
Yeah, that's just messed up and backwards. Well, that's the whole point, right? Is to create a backwards
So is this
movement.
saying that if you had a secular humanist organization that is adopting children out that did not want to adopt children to certain religions they knew to be, damaging or whatever, or they just didn't want children to be inoculated with religion, they are no longer allowed to say, no, I'm sorry, we won't adopt you because you're Catholic or you're Jehovah's Witness or you're Mormon or you're Muslim or whatever, if this bill passes.
Yeah.
Just seems out of the box, it seems wrong.
Yeah, of course, there aren't any secular humanist adoption agencies. What there are is a lot of religious adoption agencies.
Are there any just secular in general, or that don't label themselves as humanists? Okay.
No, the government-funded ones. And
No, this is all talking only about government-funded. Most of the religious ones are government-funded because, like we talked about a month or two ago on a similar issue that came up with a specific state, I don't remember which one it was, the system that was already in place was churches handling orphans, because typically if you didn't want your baby, you would drop off your baby at a church, and then the church would take care of adopting out the baby. Churches then continued to fill that role and eventually created actual proper adoption agencies that ended up replacing the orphanages that some of them started. And the government got involved and has been funding these organizations because it was the existing system. And now the U.S. government is going to say that you have to allow these religious agencies to be able to refuse to adopt children to atheists
or homosexuals, I would imagine. I'm sure they want that put in there.
Yep. That is the target. The target
was
is
the initial goal, I think.
Yeah, the big goal is to not let gay or lesbian couples adopt babies.
Yeah. It's insanity to think that there are people out there who know that there are children who need a home, children who might have been abused, children who were abandoned, neglected, or even not, children who had great lives, their parents died, something, right? Any child, any person who might need assistance and they can't do it for themselves, and that there's an organization out there trying to say, oh, well, we know there are people who sincerely, genuinely want to take care of you, want to love you, want to bring you and make you a part of their family, but they fuck the same sex as another person.
Yep.
So no, is absolutely disgusting. Like, how do you go to bed at night thinking that you're a decent person when you want to stop a child from having a potential home? And I know they don't filter it that way. I know they have all these justifications and all this cognitive dissonance that they have to, organize and compartmentalize, but it's disgusting.
Oh, it absolutely is. Rather than maximizing the pool of people who can adopt, and same-sex couples only make up a very small percentage of couples across the country. Very small. but they make up a large percentage of the couples who cannot have children on their own.
Yeah. Well, and that's just the thing is like when a gay couple is going to adopt, they they are dying to have a child, right? Like, and I don't see as many gay people being in the situation where you see people that take advantage of the situation and they will just foster and adopt children and then just feed them as little as they can and, and just live off that money so that they don't have to work. I just don't see that being as big a problem with the gay community as it is now. And I don't see any barrier to letting gay people adopt. Absolutely none. Like, as long as you're fit and you want a child and you're going to take care of that child,
get them out of the foster system.
Get that kid somebody who loves
lives.
them,
Get the kids into their forever home.
Yeah.
The goal of...
Give them that security.
Yeah. The goal of any... the Humane Society, any animal shelter, any rescue is to get the dogs and cats into their forever homes.
Mm-hmm.
That should be the goal of every adoption agency. And that should be getting them into the best loving home. And the evidence is very strong that the best possible home for a child is with a lesbian couple.
I honestly would not doubt that in any way, shape, or form. It's just I know gay couples, men and women, who have adopted, and they're just the best parents. I mean, everything is about that kid, And I mean, they're the people. They didn't have a baby by accident, They're not grudgingly loving their children, and I know a lot of parents love the shit out of their children, but it's still, to some degree, it's this obligation because they got pregnant, out of wedlock or whatever. They didn't intend for their pregnancy. That is never the case in this situation.
Yeah. Half of all children are unplanned. Every single kid adopted by a gay couple
is wanted.
They planned and wanted and worked to get that kid.
Have their finances in order, going through the system to make sure that they're safe, that they don't, checking their criminal background. Like, yeah.
Yep. All right, we're going to take another break, and then we have some feedback, and then our discussion. We love hearing from our listeners. You can email us at contact@atheistnomads.com, tweet us at atheistnomads, send us a message on our Facebook page at facebook.com/atheistnomads, or better yet, call us and leave us a message at 541-203-0666. We might even play it on the show. You can also help us out by leaving us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or your podcast directory of choice. So Bart emailed me shortly after the interview, and I told him that he could also call the voicemail line, which he did.
Hey, this is Bart Everson. I wanted to say thanks again for having me on the podcast recently. I really should have also, at that time, I should have given voice to my gratitude for the coverage that you and, the other atheist podcasters and bloggers, the coverage you provide of ongoing issues and news, relating primarily to Christian hegemony and dominance in our world, how it affects our lives. Sometimes I feel like I'd rather not pay attention to that. Like, I'd rather just withdraw into my private life and pretend that stuff doesn't affect me. But, of course, that's really not an option. Because, of course, it does affect us. It affects us all. So it's so important to remain aware of that. And I feel it's a valuable service that you provide. So I wanted to say thank you. In particular, Atheist Nomads, I find, brings a real perspective of, justice and values to that coverage. A kind of a humane understanding of what a better world could be and what's holding us back. So I really appreciate that. Just wanted to call in and voice my support.
Thank you, Bart. That really means a lot to hear.
It's one of those aw shucks moments.
Yeah.
Kick the dirt.
Lauren knows how much and how often I want to throw in the towel and hide in the cabin.
Brewing beer, apparently now.
Yeah. But yeah, this is happening. The stuff that's happening is getting worse. the religious right is fighting. They are losing the demographic war, but they are fighting to leave their mark. And I fully believe that in the long run,
It'll be a skid mark.
yeah, they'll all be erased.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to fight hard now because I don't want Kylie to have to fight that.
Right.
I want it to already be done. And so, yeah, if we let it go by unnoticed, and I don't pretend that we make a huge difference in the world, but by shining some light on some of these issues, we are helping increase the visibility on it and increase some of the anger. And elected officials pay attention when they get mentioned anywhere on the internet.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it really is. It really is one of those the sum of the parts things,
Mm-hmm.
because it doesn't matter, if you have 10 listeners, 100 listeners, or 1,000 listeners, you're out there and you've got listeners. And the more of that there is, the more of this discussion that's happening. I know the Atheist podcast, really, they try to mention each other in them quite a bit, and rely on each other. And the atheist community tries to boost itself up as far as podcasting and the internet and stuff like that goes. So, I mean, it's every little deal, So if you're reaching one person, you are making that impact. That person might be inspired to go and start a podcast, and then they might reach 10,000 people. So it's like when somebody's like, "Oh, I'm one person, I can't make a difference," and I'm not an enthusiastic, sentimental type of person, but that's horseshit. I tend to be cynical, but the whole one person can't make a difference, it's just a lie. Mm-hmm. It's just not true in any regard. There are very few circumstances where one person really can't make any difference at all. So,
and the reach this podcast has is bigger than the reach I likely would have at this point as a pastor if I had continued down that path. I talk to more people now every week than I would have as a pastor.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And for Mark Green via the website, hi, great interview with Bart. If you're interested in more of this sort of thing, I edit the website and moderate the Facebook group for Atheopaganism, a pagan path which does exactly what Bart is talking about. The site is at atheopaganism.org. The Facebook group is at facebook.com/group/atheopaganism. Bart is a member of the group. The site contains information about creating your own cycle of holidays, about creating rituals, ethical principles, and other useful material for living an atheopagan life. Thank you, Mark.
Very nice.
I am happy to share that information. It's not for me, but it might be for some of our listeners.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All right, time for the discussion. And of course, since the debacle, our dear leader has tried to walk back, saying that he actually meant the opposite of what he said.
Yeah, literally. Oh, God.
Yeah. After getting condemned by literally everyone.
Well, explain what happened first.
The latest collusion statement? Okay.
So I've got a number of clips here. So we'll start with the first one.
My people came to me, Dan Coates came to me, and some others. They said they think it's Russia. I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this. I don't see any reason why it would be. I will tell you that President Putin was extremely strong and powerful in his denial today. And what he did is an incredible offer. He offered to have the people working on the case come and work with their investigators with respect to the 12 people. I think that's an incredible offer.
Okay, so Dan Coates is the director of national intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
So when he says Dan Coates and his people, he's saying the entire national intelligence community.
Mm-hmm.
And he corrected the statement today, this afternoon, Tuesday is the day of recording, was saying that he meant wouldn't. He didn't know why Russia wouldn't interfere, which that modification of it does not fit with the context at all. If I was doing textual criticism and I had two manuscripts, one had the word wouldn't there and the other had the word would, I would reject the one that has wouldn't as being an obvious after-the-fact correction to try to make it sound like he's saying what he wasn't saying what he said, because it does not fit with the context at all.
No, I mean, you could practically, everything in that sentence was throwing Russia in a positive light.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, his tone was set.
Yeah.
So saying something like, I don't doubt that, Russia wouldn't have done it, but they're so great because they're offering us help. That doesn't fit with the tone. He knew exactly what he meant. He's trying to patch things up and it's not working. Nobody wants to patch things up with Russia.
Yeah.
It is nice to see that some Republicans are finally starting to say, hey, I think we're getting a little too cozy with Russia.
Uh-huh.
Finally,
In bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. At this point, Russia not only owns Trump, but apparently the Republican Party and most definitely the National Rifle Association.
Got a clip for that?
Yeah. No, yeah.
We talked about that at least a month ago, maybe even more.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Through funding or
there was
leadership?
There's a Russian agent who has been on the board of the National Rifle Association. A substantial amount of their funding has been coming from the Russian government.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I was not aware of that.
The NRA got taken over by the Russians and is at this point
What's the time frame for that? Do you know?
Over the last decade.
Okay. Ugh.
At least.
This collusion stuff is nasty business too. And there you can see they're just really shuffling to try and keep this from imploding as long as they can, trying to push everything off Manafort and yeah.
All right. So
interesting.
Next clip.
The probe is a disaster for our country. I think it's kept us apart. It's kept us separated. There was no collusion at all. Everybody knows it.
Okay, so if there wasn't
how long ago was that? Because just a couple weeks ago, didn't he say, "Oh yeah, there was he admitted to something that was collusion," said, "But everybody does that." So when was this clip?
This was Monday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This is all from his press conference joint press conference with Vladimir Putin in Finland on Monday.
Well, lucky for him, the American media doesn't have a memory. So
yeah.
No, but everything lives on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
What's weird is that because of this echo chamber he's got himself in there at the White House, where he's only being fed news that shows him in a positive light.
Mm-hmm.
He may honestly believe that everybody else in the world thinks that this is a ruse.
Oh,
thinks that this probe is illegitimate, and that it's only a handful of pro-Democrats who are trying to ruin his legacy.
Well, and
that's not the case. Everybody knows there was collusion.
Mm-hmm.
You look at these weird little things about the way that he operates too, like John Bolton, and just all this. It's like he talks to Sean Hannity on the phone almost every single day. Like there are really I have a feeling that he doesn't well, basically, he is what the Republicans have wanted for a long time. They want this. He is the product of conservatism, where it's like everything's a conspiracy theory.
Yep.
He believes all of them, and Fox News is what he believes. What was the deal? Was it the trade agreement? And then he watched Sean Hannity, and Sean Hannity said something bad about. Oh man, what was it? And then the next day he's like, no, I don't think I'm going to sign that. I believe it was an amendment to NAFTA or something like that. And he is a Fox News president and just a puppet of that system.
And even Fox News was condemning him for the statements he made during this press conference. But the thing is, if there was no collusion, then what leaks was he afraid of that would have happened if there had been an American translator and note taker at his private meeting with President Putin?
Yeah, what's he protecting? There's not collusion. What is it that he doesn't?
Yeah,
that he doesn't want to surface.
You never rely on somebody else's translator.
Mm-hmm.
Ever. Trump is a businessman. He knows you never rely on somebody else's translator. If he was in Russia trying to work on a land deal, you better believe he'd have his own.
Yeah, there's no way he'd go into this situation like that. Yeah, absolutely.
And oh man, you should assume it's incompetence if possible. This can't be.
Yeah,
I would assume that if you were able to go and verify at every international business meeting that he's had where a translator was needed, whether or not he had his own translator there or not, I would imagine if not 100% of the time, 99.9% of the time, especially when something serious was at stake, he had his own translator.
And if it's not somebody that you employ, it's somebody that you're contracting to translate for that event. Because, you never rely on somebody else's translator.
Mm-hmm.
Never.
No, that would be like basing your own foreign politics on another country's ambassador.
Yeah.
No, they're not working for you. Their interests are not yours. Don't.
Yeah, verify. That's the pretty standard concept in any sort of political.
Yeah. Okay, so then there's the attempt at misdirection.
What happened to the server? What happened to the servers of the Pakistani gentleman that worked on the DNC? Where are those servers? They're missing. Where are they? What happened to Hillary
They're not
Clinton's
missing.
emails? 33,000 emails gone, just gone. I think in Russia they wouldn't be gone so easily. I think it's a disgrace.
He loves Russia
So much.
So much. It's mind-blowing. Okay, if Obama had said anything this positive about Russia, the heads would be exploding. Across
if Obama
nation.
had said anything, done that exact same press conference, I would guarantee
there'd be impeachment,
he
not impeachment. There'd be
he wouldn't have lived
grand jury and
he wouldn't have lived long enough to get back to the States. Somebody would have killed him before the plane landed. I guarantee it.
No, it blows. Well, and this is a little off topic, but it's the same thing. North Korea. No, he wants to go and sit down with no preconditions with North Korea. And they just roasted Obama for saying, okay, we're going to need you to do this with your nuclear program. We need to do you to solve these human rights violations, and then we'll come and sit at the table. And it was like, you're going to sit with a communist leader and take America and give them that. But, and now it's like Trump wants to do it. And it's like, oh, yes, of course. Why wouldn't we go to
because
North Korea and no conditions?
Obama was the ultimate compromiser. That's what his goals were, always to try and compromise.
Mm-hmm.
Trump won the election because he said he wasn't going to compromise, and now has totally flipped and is doing nothing.
He's not compromising.
It's not even compromising.
He's rolling over.
Surrendering.
He's rolling over. Exactly. He's showing them their belly and saying, "All right, you scratch me behind the ear, and I'll do whatever you want."
You got me elected, and here you go. I delivered.
But so with everything he said in that little bit of misdirection is factually wrong. The DNC servers aren't missing. They were hacked. Whether or not the system administrator was of Pakistani descent is irrelevant because they were hacked by the Russians.
Yep. I love that. That was clever.
Yeah.
Trying to blame it on a Pakistani guy. It's like, there was...
Oh, well, let's get this Middle Eastern thing here.
It was the people you were cocksucking that actually did it.
And the 30,000 emails, they aren't missing. They were deleted because people delete emails on their private email servers. Yes, it was inappropriate that Hillary was handling government emails on her private server.
Doesn't he use an unsecured BlackBerry?
Yeah.
But he doesn't. He's so much worse. And all of his staff...
And everybody has used...
Well, and they were the ones trying to get TEC brought back into the United States. And one of the guys from the CIA was saying that the TEC phones, I believe it's TEC is the company, one of the ones from Korea, is basically a spy device.
No,
and they
China.
Is it China? Yeah. And they shouldn't even be sold in the United States because they're effectively a spy device. You don't feel secure if you have one of those phones.
No, Trump refuses to use his government-issued phone because he finds the security on it cumbersome, and he'd rather just use his private phone. That is so much worse than having a competent administrator running a proper server. And, Hillary shouldn't have been doing government business on her private server.
Mm-hmm.
But that was standard practice at the time for cabinet-level officials. That needs to change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they still haven't passed any rules or anything.
Yeah.
He only brings it up when he's trying to distract.
Yes. Because
and so there's no crimes been committed. It's it's a really easy thing to get his base to go, rah, 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 Hillary servers. Rah, rah, rah.
Yep.
And then, of course, somebody had to ask Putin the very obvious question.
Does the Russian government have any compromising material on President Trump or his family?
Yeah, that was Putin laughing.
Well, that's because it from a head of state's point of view, that is a ridiculous question.
It is. He's not going to answer that. Or if he is, he's not going to go, yes, of course we do in this situation.
Yeah,
you know?
no.
Yeah.
So that was a ridiculous question. The guy had the floor for a minute, and I think he wasted it with that.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's still funny.
It was funny, and I think it was just meant to catch attention real quick.
Yeah.
Be a dig at...
Yep, be a dig at Trump.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've been wanting to talk about conspiracy theories for a while now, and this is a perfect opportunity to do it, because just present in the clips we've listened to, there are two separate conspiracy theories. There is the conspiracy theory that Hillary deleted emails and somebody took servers from the DNC to hide illegal activity. Mm-hmm. Specifically, in Hillary's case, I think it was that she was colluding with Saudi Arabia or something like that. There's one conspiracy. The other conspiracy is that Donald Trump and his campaign, or at least his campaign, was actively working with the Russian government to undermine the United States presidential election in 2016, that they actively targeted Hillary Clinton to discredit her. When they thought that they couldn't cost her the election, they focused on trying to undermine her upcoming presidency. Donald Trump was aware of all of this and then engaged in actively attempting to obstruct justice by getting then FBI Director James Comey, trying to get him to swear personal loyalty to Donald Trump. Okay, both of those are conspiracy theories. One's batshit crazy, because it's not based on any evidence. Mm-hmm. It is based purely on the absence of evidence. Mm-hmm. The other one is based on a growing pile of evidence. Mm-hmm. Actual, solid, documented evidence with many meetings between Russian agents and members of Trump's campaign, active involvement of a Russian-linked person. Okay, he worked in Ukraine for pro-Russian interest in Ukraine, and then became Trump's campaign manager. How ridiculously stupid could you be to pick Paul Manafort? Oh, man.
Well, that's what I think this is. It's just, I want to say it's ignorance on Trump's part, that he honestly thought that what the Russians came to him and say, hey, we'll help you win the election if you do something for us. And he's like, wow, if I could be the person that brought the US and Russia together, then I would be the ultimate deal maker. The ultimate deal maker. I'd be higher, better than Reagan. So yeah, accept a little bit of help, not realizing that in itself is so treasonous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that coupled with the fact
he was thinking like a businessman, not like a politician, which has been the problem all along.
That coupled with the fact that Donald Trump has been shown and has had aides and people in his life say over and over again how heavily TV influences his life, I wouldn't be surprised if his idea of the way that the federal government runs is a little more TV based than reality based. Also, especially the way he secludes himself in Washington, and doesn't really let anybody that doesn't want to tell him what he wants to hear inside. So like he thinks, oh yeah, every president makes these shady deals. We just don't know about it, and they put it on
because
TV.
I've seen it on TV.
I've seen it on TV, so that's how it is. Yeah. Because
every Law and Order
there's
episode.
there's so many things that he does where it's like, do you believe TV is real? Is it like just the way he gets his news and stuff like that? It's like I think he thinks a lot of entertainment only exists because it has a basis in reality.
And if you look at it all in terms of under the assumption that everything Trump is doing is because it's what Putin wants. Putin paid for his election, and now Trump is paying Putin back. What's he doing? He is souring relations with the EU. He is souring NATO.
Causing a huge amount of unrest at home.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Potentially destroying the last shreds of faith in the American electoral process. No, not even potentially. Has completely destroyed the last shreds of faith in the American
This is the
electoral
least
process.
unified I've ever felt as a U.S. citizen, you know.
And if you look at the long game, a weaker United States, and even the tax policy, which is resulting in profits getting sent further to the wealthy while nobody else gets anything, and increasing the deficit, that weakens the United States government, and it weakens the United States as a whole. So what we're looking at the end of this is a weaker U.S., a weaker NATO, and a weaker EU.
And a U.S. military that is now primed to have a sympathetic tone towards Russia, because the military is heavily right. Like,
he is the commander in chief after all.
Well, and I have at least 4 military friends that are way more left than they are right, who voted Trump because of the military, because of things that they were getting told by their commanding officers and their superior officers. There definitely is this. The left is anti-military, and I've never seen that. But
and instead, what we have is a military with aging equipment that can't be replaced and isn't even being properly maintained,
and won't give health care to people that are injured or wounded in conflict.
But even if you just look at it from the equipment standpoint, the budget deficits are resulting in not being able to properly fund the military. And because cuts that need to happen with the military aren't happening, and funding increases that need to happen aren't happening, we have the average readiness of the military decreasing, which a weaker U.S. military can't stand up to Russia.
Right.
Brexit, they're finding a lot of evidence that Nigel Farage is under investigation for colluding with the Russians.
Yeah.
They're finding that a lot of the funding for the Brexit campaign was from the Russians.
From Russia.
Russia is actively trying to destroy the EU. They're actively trying to destroy NATO, and it's because they want their fucking empire back. This all comes down to. Putin does not give a shit about Donald Trump.
No way.
But Putin wants the Baltic states back. And he can't have the Baltic states as long as they're members of NATO and the EU. Because
as long as the U.S. military is in a position to immediately go and do something about it if they try to take it by force. Yeah.
Because right now, if Russian troops rolled into Latvia...
We're obligated, correct?
Yeah. It is it's the same as an invasion of the United States. And we would be obligated to respond in kind.
If Russia get some of those treaties wiped out.
Yep. If Russia nuked a NATO city, they would be protected under the NATO nuclear shield, and it would be the same as if New York City was nuked. But yeah,
you get rid of NATO.
Yep.
You get rid of the EU. You get rid of all those treaties.
Yeah, he's been playing a long game, and it's only now starting to come to a head, and we are playing catch up and realizing it's too late.
I'm not going to sleep tonight. Thank you, guys.
No, and it's the insidious thing about it is the meddling with the election, I think, is a more grievous act of war than if Russia sent bombers flying over Idaho.
Yeah.
It's
sabotage versus open warfare.
It's active cyber warfare, and we don't treat cyber warfare equivalent to the damage it actually does.
It's psychological warfare too, because now your vote doesn't mean what it used to. So
heck, in all practicality, they might as well have nuked Washington D.C.
Well, I don't know many people. I don't know many people after this on the left or the right who feel incredibly comfortable with our voting system anymore either. People feel like something's wrong one way or another, and that it's too open to corruption.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so we need to end with. We need to end, but we also need to end with some kind of a call to action. I don't care if you live in a red state or a blue state. I want you to stop right now. Okay, you can finish the episode, but then immediately stop and write your congressional delegation. Even here in Idaho, our congressional delegation condemned Trump's statements. And Idaho is one of the reddest states. Now, they did it in as wishy-washy a way as they could, but they did condemn what he said. They just didn't condemn him. We need to pressure everyone in Congress, left and right, Republican and Democrat, to keep up this condemnation, to keep up the investigation, because Trump is obviously compromised. He is a threat and possibly guilty of treason.
And if you don't think that the advance on Trump is working and is a good idea, look at the prevalence of hashtag Never Trump.
Yeah.
And all these conservatives who are now saying, oh, I don't know what happened to the conservative party. They're just trying to abandon Trump, and they're trying to position themselves as having nothing to do with anything of it. And that is growing. So, I mean, there is traction there, and it's definitely, I think that's definitely a place that progress can be made. And then, sorry to hijack your thing here, but also don't let the media forget what's going on. The media has no memory, and we've got to stop that. The media has to start when they do an interview and somebody says something and they know for a fact, and they've got a clip of that person saying the exact opposite thing about an opposed party candidate from a year later. We've got to start holding these guys accountable to calling that out. I think that's a huge thing.
The other thing to include when you write your representatives is that actually specifically for your senators, Brett Kavanaugh's nomination for the Supreme Court must be put on hold.
Yeah, absolutely.
Until the investigation is complete. Only if Trump is exonerated and cleared of any wrongdoing should he be allowed to nominate someone to the Supreme Court who will definitely be weighing in on the investigation.
Yeah, I'm writing that. I have a form letter that I send every week, so I'm adding that in there.
Because Nixon, he would have served out his term if the Supreme Court hadn't ordered him to hand over the tapes. It took the Supreme Court to bring down Nixon. It will take the Supreme Court to bring down Trump.
Yeah.
And if he is allowed to put somebody who obviously he would have picked because he'll back him,
perhaps pledged 100% loyalty to him or some other bullshit.
And that is despite the fact that he is an absolute nightmare in terms of trying to protect church-state separation, women's rights, gay rights, basic human civil rights. Besides all of that, Trump should not be allowed to nominate somebody while under active investigation for possible treason. And, okay, treason isn't actually the right word because we aren't in an active state of warfare.
Would it be high crimes?
He is obviously under investigation for high crimes and misdemeanors. Yeah.
Which is such a... I listened to a couple of podcasts about that recently. Such a nuanced and ambiguous thing.
Intentionally so.
Yeah.
To be both specific and vague at the same time, to allow for poor behavior to be considered bad. High crimes doesn't just mean felonies. It means...
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be illegal.
It means being bad in office.
Well, he's got that in the...
Yeah.
In the bag.
In the bag.
So, I guess it'd be while he's under active investigation for high crimes and misdemeanors, he should not be able to.
I think there should be a whole litany of powers that are withheld from the president while under investigation for something like that, except for the fact that then every single time Congress wanted to block an opposed party president, they would find some bullshit to start an investigation.
That's true. There is the whole checks and balances thing, which I now don't believe exists. So
I think they need some serious revising. We've had too many imperial presidents.
My 7th grade civics lessons are all obsolete.
Yeah.
we need to start remembering that we can amend the Constitution as well.
All right. Well, on that note, Justin, thank you.
Hey, thank you for letting me side rail this so many times tonight.
And Lauren, thank you.
Yay.
I love you.
Thank you. I love you too.
And listeners, remember, not all those who wander are lost. Thank you for listening to another episode of Atheist Nomads. You can find show notes and contact information at atheistnomads.com. Follow us on Twitter at Atheist Nomads and like us on Facebook at facebook.com/Atheist Nomads. Please subscribe to the show in iTunes, Stitcher, or your podcatcher of choice. And while you're there, feel free to leave us a review. Theme music is courtesy of Sturdy Fred. Until next time, This has been the Atheist Nomads.